In this video, we will discuss the answers to the functions verbal description test review. For questions numbers 1 and 2, we are going to use the verbal description below. Bentley signed up for a streaming music service that costs $13 per month. This service allows Bentley to listen to unlimited music, but if he wants to download songs for offline listening, the service charge is 75 cents per song. So things that we need to remember as we start with question number 1, we are going to actually write an equation that represents the verbal description. Our equation needs to be in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b format. M is your rate of change, how things are changing, for instance, each month. And B is your initial value, or what you started with. So when I think about what his service cost starts with, he is going to have to pay a cost of $13 per month no matter what else he decides to do. So that would be his initial value, his starting location. Then if he wants to download additional songs, it is 75 cents per song. Remember, per is often used to help you identify rate of change. So our equation, this is our M, our equation would be y equals 75 cents x, because x always follows the M value, plus the $13 a month charge. Question number 2 says, how much total money would Bentley have to pay in a month in which he downloaded 10 songs? So you're going to take that value of 10, the number of songs he downloaded, and you are going to substitute that for that x variable. So our equation then would be y equals 0.75 times 10 plus the $13 that was his monthly charge. Go ahead and do your 0.75 times 10, which is $7.50. Add 13 to that. And so he's going to end up paying a total of $20.50. For questions 3 and 4, use the verbal description below. At the end of a snowstorm, Ethan had 11 inches of snow on his lawn. The temperature then increased and the snow began to melt at a constant rate of 1 inch per hour. So remember, your equation is y equals mx plus b. M is our rate of change. Now this particular equation actually says the word rate, at a constant rate. Our rate of change, or our M here, is going to be 1 inch. Our B is our starting value. And so when Ethan decided to start paying attention to the snow, or the snow begins to melt, it originally had 11 inches of snow already on the ground. So that would be our B value, or our initial value. So our equation would be y equals our 1 inch followed by x plus the 11 inches. Now, let's think about that. Our 1x that we put is just a positive 1, but our snow is going to be melting. So instead of that being a positive 1, I do need to make that a negative 1, because the snow is going to be melting, which means the amount of snow on the ground is going to be decreasing each hour. So your equation would be y equals negative 1x plus 11, or y equals negative x plus 11. Either equation would be accurate. Number 4 says, assuming no more snow was falling, how much snow would Ethan have on his lawn 2 hours after the snow began to fall? So you're going to take your value of the 2 hours and substitute it into your equation of y equals negative x plus 11. We're substituting in the 2 for the x value, so that would be y equals negative 2 plus 11. And so when I add those, since the signs are different, we actually ended up subtracting. I end up with 9 inches after the 2 hours. For numbers 5 and 6, use the verbal description below. Violet just accepted a job at a new company where she will make an annual salary of $64,000. Violet was told that for each year she stays with the company, she will be given a salary raise of $3,500. So we are going to write an equation that represents this verbal description. So remember, your equation is y equals mx plus b. B is your initial value, your starting location, and M is your rate of change, how things are changing on a consistent pattern. So when you think about the statement you've been given, what is started with is the salary that she's going to be making annually when she first starts this job. So that is her $64,000. That would be the B. Then she has been told that every year, each often represents rate of change. Each year she's going to be given a raise of $3,500. So that's going to be our M value. So when we write our equation, we would have y equals our 3,500 followed by x, because x always comes after the slope value, plus her annual salary that she started with of $64,000. Number 6 says, how much would Violet make as a salary after her 5 years of working at the company? So we're just going to take our 5 years that we're looking at, and we're going to substitute it into our equation. So 3,500 times 5 plus the 64,000. 3,500 times 5 is going to give me 17,500 plus the 64,000 annual salary that she had. And so after 5 years, she will have $81,500 as her salary. For numbers 7 and 8, use the verbal description below. Carolyn is going to an amusement park. The price of admission into the park is $10, and once she is inside the park, she will have to pay $2 for every ride she rides on. So number 7 says we're going to write an equation to represent this verbal description. So again, your equation is y equals mx plus b. B is your starting point or your initial value, and m is your rate of change, also known as slope. So you've got to look at your statement and her starting point. When she got to the park, she's automatically going to have to pay $10 to even go into the park. So that is her initial value, or B. Once she is in the park, then for every ride, she's going to have to pay $2. So that is her rate of change, because for each ride, that's an additional $2. So we are going to write our equation. That would be y equals our rate of change, or our M is 2, followed by x, plus the $10 it costs to get in, the initial value. Number 8 says, how much money would Caroline have to pay in total if she was going to go on 8 rides? So we would plug 8 in for our x, so y equals 2 times 8, plus the $10 to cost to get in. 2 times 8 is 16, so she's paying $16 just for rides, plus the $10 cost to get in. So she ends up paying a total of $26. For numbers 9 and 10, use the verbal description below. After 5 years, Brittany had 450 Instagram followers. After 12 years, she had 625 Instagram followers. So this particular description is different than the other ones we've had prior to this one. We are going to have to make a table of values in order to find our rate of change, and then we're also going to need to make a table of values to find our initial value, or our starting location. So we're going to take our years and our followers, so at 5 years, Brittany had 450 followers for Instagram, and after 12 years, she had 625. So we're going to look at what is changing with the values of our x and our y. So on the x side for the years, it is increasing by 7, And on the follower side for y, it is increasing by 175. So remember, your slope or your rate of change is the change in the y over the change in the x. Our change in our y was 175. Our change in our x was 7. So when I simplify that, it comes back to being 25 followers for Instagram per 1 year, which of course is going to reduce to 25. I left this as an improper fraction to start with so that when we make our table to work backwards, it'll help. So now let's find our initial value. So we are going to look at our years for our x and our followers still. And we're going to start with our 5 and our 450. But we need to get our x value to 0. So I need to go back, figure out how many followers at 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and at 0 years. So if you think about this fraction that we had, our x value is a positive 1 and our y value is a positive 25. To go backwards on our table, I am going back by 1. So going back, I am subtracting 1. So you can see on the x value, each time I went back, I subtracted 1 until I got back to 0. I need to do the same thing with my y value, except I'm going to be going back by 25. I originally had positive 25, but to work backwards, I have to subtract. So I'm going to do minus 25 as I come backwards. So 450 minus 25 would be 425. Then when I subtract 25, that would be 400. Minus 25 would be 375. Minus 25, it's going to be 350. Minus 25 is 325. So now I'm back to where I can see what 0 is. When x is 0, y is my y-intercept. And so my equation, my y-intercept here is going to be 325, so my b is 325. So my equation is going to be y equals 25x, because that was my rate of change, plus, started out with 325 followers. So my next question is, how many followers will we have in 18 years? So I'm going to take my 18 and plug it into my equation, substitute it for the x, so that would be y equals 25 times 18 plus 325. So 25 times 18 will give me 450 plus the 325 she started with. So after 18 years, that would be 775 followers. So now for number 11, we are going to find the slope of 2 points. So we use our slope equation, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, we're going to label our ordered pairs. Our ordered pairs are x and y already. These will have the subscript of 1, so x1 and y1 because they're first. And the second ordered pair will be x2 and y2 because they are second. So you're going to take your numbers once you've labeled them and plug them into your slope equation. So my y2 is 5 minus my y1, which is 9. x2 is 1 minus our x3, the x1, which is 3. And then we're ready to subtract. 5 minus 9. You could remember that you need to add the opposite, or you can just know your rules. That would be a negative 4. And the same thing with 1, add the opposite here. So 1 plus negative 3 would be negative 2. We know that a negative divided by a negative will cancel, so that's going to be a positive automatically. And then 4 divided by 2 would be 2. So the slope is going to be 2. Number 12, finding the slope of a set of ordered pairs. I'm going to start by labeling my ordered pairs. So again, X and Y on your ordered pairs always. This is your first ordered pair, so we're going to give this X1 and Y1. Your second ordered pairs will give the subscripts of 2, so X2 and Y2. The equation is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So our Y2 value is negative 4 minus our Y1 value, which is 10. Our X2 value is negative 5 minus our X1 value, which is negative 3. And then you solve the problem using your integer rules. Remember, a minus sign tells me to add the opposite. So a negative 4 plus a negative 10 would be a negative 14. I would add the opposite in the denominator also. Negative 5 plus 3 would be a negative 2. We know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So 14 divided by 2 would be 7. So my slope is 7. Number 13, I'm going to start by labeling my ordered pairs, X1, Y1, since it's the first ordered pair, X2, Y2, since it's the second ordered pair. My slope equation is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. My Y2 is 3 minus my Y1, which is negative 2. My X2 is negative 1 minus my X1, which is positive 3. Then use your integer rules and solve the problem. 3 minus negative 2, add the opposite. That would be 3 plus 2, which is 5. I have a minus sign here, so that tells me to add the opposite. So now I have negative 1 plus negative 3, which is negative 4. So that's reduced as low as it needs to be, so I can leave my slope as negative 5/4. Number 14, we are going to start out by labeling our ordered pairs, X1, Y1, since they're first, X2, Y2, since they're the second ordered pair. Our slope equation is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. My Y2 is 7 minus my Y1, which is 8. My X2 is negative 1 minus my X1, which is 1. Now use your integer rules. Minus sign tells me to add the opposite. 7 plus negative 8 would be negative 1. And the denominator, I need to add the opposite. A negative 1 plus a negative 1 would give me a negative 2. And we know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so my slope should be positive 1/2. Always reduce. Number 15, label your ordered pairs, X1 minus Y1, X2 minus Y2. Our slope formula is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1, because this is your change in the Y over the change in your X for the slope. My Y2 is negative 2 minus my Y1, which is 4. My X2 is 3 minus my X1, which is 0. Apply your integer rules. Minus sign tells me to add the opposite. Negative 2 plus negative 4 is going to give me a negative 6. 3 minus 0 is 3. This can be reduced, so I will divide 3 into negative 6, and that will give me a negative 2. So my slope is negative 2. Number 16, I'm going to label the ordered pair, X1, Y1, since that's the first ordered pair, X2, Y2, since that is my second ordered pair. My slope formula is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So my Y2 is negative 2 minus my Y1, which is 9. My X2 is 7 minus my X1, which is negative 9. We want to use our integer rules, so a minus sign tells me to add the opposite. So negative 2 plus negative 9 would be negative 11. Add the opposite in the denominator. 7 plus 9 would be 16. There is nothing that will divide evenly into 11 or 16, so my slope then would just be negative 11 over 16. Number 17. Start out by labeling my ordered pairs. The first ordered pair is x1, y1. Second ordered pair is x2, y2. Your slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Y2 was 5 minus y1, which is 5. X2 is 2 minus x1, which is 7. So 5 minus 5 is 0. 2 minus 7, remember, use your integer rules. We need to add the opposite, so that would be 2 plus negative 7, and that's negative 5. So when you come up with a problem like this, you still need to simplify. So negative 5 goes into 0 0 times. So this slope is 0. Okay, number 18. Start out by labeling your ordered pairs. So first ordered pair is x1, y1. Your second ordered pair is x2, y2. Our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the change in the y over the change in the x. So we would have our y2 is negative 1 minus our y1, which is 2. Our x2 is negative 5 minus our x1, which is negative 5. Don't forget to apply your integer rules. Minus sign tells me to add the opposite. So negative 1 plus negative 2 would be negative 3. In the denominator, also add the opposite. Negative 5 plus 5 would be 0. 0 is a neutral number, so if you have a 0 in the denominator, your answer is going to be undefined. It has a rise of negative 3, but it is not running left or right. That run number is 0. So that's going to make a vertical line, which is undefined. So kind of think about it. It has a little bit of a rhyme to it. If the 0 is under the line, it is undefined. So that would be your slope. You have to write the word undefined. Number 19. Start out by labeling your ordered pairs. This just keeps you from mixing numbers up. Use your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Our y2 is negative 4 minus our y1, which is 6. Our x2 is 3 minus our x1, which is 2. Apply your integer rules for subtraction. Minus sign tells me to add the opposite. Negative 4 minus negative 6 would be a negative 10. Sorry, I said that wrong. Negative 4 plus a negative 6 is a negative 10. And 3 minus 2 would be 1. This needs to be simplified. 1 goes into negative 10 times. So that would be your slope, or your m. Finally, number 20. Go ahead and label those ordered pairs. x1, y1 for the first ordered pair. x2, y2 for the second ordered pair. The formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, that is the change in the y over the change in the x for the slope. So our y2 is 0 minus our y1, which is 7. Our x2 is negative 1 minus our x1, which is 3. 0 minus 7. You can apply your integer rules here if you need to, but most of you know that 0 minus 7 would be negative 7, but you can add the opposite to get negative 7. And the denominator, you definitely want to apply your integer rules. Minus sign tells me to add the opposite. Negative 1 plus negative 3 would be a negative 4. Remember, if you have a negative divided by a negative, they're going to cancel out. So your final answer for this slope would be 7 over 4.